So here we are. This is 9th Avenue and 56th Street. So really from 57th down to 42nd was originally, this was called Hell's Kitchen. Now, as you'll see during our walk, it's really Heck's Kitchen. I'm going to be talking to a friend of mine who grew up here, and he's going to be telling us one of the many hijinks that happened. And this is a story called The Fight.
Well, hello, Colin.
Hi, Mike. So, Mike, I like you wearing a jacket because your father would only come out dressed up in those days, right?
That's it. They used to call him the gentleman gangster, as he was.
Yeah.
I remember my dad was always in a suit.
Always in a suit.
Always in a suit.
And so here we are walking down 9th Avenue.
This is what I would call Upper Hell's Kitchen.
Yes. Heck's Kitchen.
That's right. Hell's Kitchen runs from, really back when I was a kid, from 42nd Street up to 57th Street.
Right.
From 8th Avenue over to
the river.
To the river.
Right.
And
so what did 9th Avenue look like when you were growing up?
Well, back in the 80s, and you got to remember,
yeah.
Colin, and I know you remember.
I used to live right on 46, yeah.
That there was only, people don't realize this, but Hell's Kitchen was one of the worst slums in the country. There was only 3 neighborhoods listed on the national list of slums, and the South Bronx in the 70s didn't even make that list. Hell's Kitchen did.
Oh my God!
And so people really don't, realize what kind of neighborhood,
it was desolate.
Desolate. Every other, I don't know if the cameras are looking over there, but there would be one store. And then 3 burnt out or empty ones, and then you would have a bodega. Yeah. And every corner, really, it was like a drugstore. Every corner was known for different drugs. Yeah. Like 56th Street, might get marijuana. On 55th, you could get lewds. And and then there was also different nationalities.
And it was heroin everywhere.
Heroin everywhere. So it was an Irish neighborhood originally, and Irish and German. And then it turned in Irish, German, Italian, and then it went Irish, German, and then Puerto Rican.
Well, that's because that's what West Side Story is.
West Side Story.
This neighborhood, the West Side.
This is where it was filmed.
They call it the West Side.
It was filmed right over here on 46th Street.
Yeah.
So I grew. My family, as you know, Colin, we moved into Hell's Kitchen on 49th Street between 9th and 10th in 1891. Yes. So I'm the 6th generation to be born in the same building, 49th Street. And, and it's so funny. We had the building for about 100 years. And my uncle, who was a leaseholder, came down to him. He was trying to... Uncle Jim. And back then, the neighborhood was so bad, everything was run down. Yeah. Somebody knocked on his door one day and said to him, I'll give you $100,000 for the building. And my Uncle Jim was like, you'll do what?
And this is, how big is this building?
Yeah, it was a beautiful, now it's called a brownstone. It's a beautiful brownstone.
So it was like a 4-story brownstone.
A 4-story brownstone.
And what year was that?
Probably worth $6 million. That was 1991.
That was 1991?
1991.
That's insane.
So, and my uncle was like, and he should have known, because the minute somebody was offering, because he couldn't, back then they were giving buildings away.
Yeah, I know, of course. You buy a building for $1 sometimes.
Yeah, well, my Uncle Jim was a district leader, and he would tell the story that people would come to the club, the Democratic club, and say to him, listen, Jim, I will give you the building, just pay the back taxes. Yeah. I mean, because people were in debt, they couldn't pay that. Yeah. And then Jim was like, what am I going to do with the building? So the minute Jim was offered any money, he sold the family compound. So someday I'm going to knock on the door and say, excuse me, you're in my house. What is it going to take to get it back?
I mean, can you imagine? Yeah. 1991, and guess what?
The neighborhood just started to turn.
The neighborhood just started to turn. I remember when first time I was here, I was on 47th and 8th, or 46th and 8th. Right above Smilers, 45th and 8th.
Oh, wow. You were 45th and 8th, 45th and 8th.
Yeah,
wow.
Smilers. I lived right above Smilers.
Right.
But that was in the 80s.
Right,
and it was just, everything was like...
Smilers on 45th and 9th, too, if you remember.
Oh, that's where I was, 45th and 9th.
Yeah, okay. But there was another deli up on 45th and 8th, too.
Yeah, but I was on this one. And anyway, but that was, it was like coming home every night you had a new story. Yeah. Every night something happened. Because you're walking, and I'm talking about just from 45th and 8th to 45th and 9th. Right. That walk you had something would happen.
Now let me just show. Let me show. This was my grandmother's liquor store.
Oh, this was it, huh?
This was it, right here.
Wow.
And right
this
next.
was the liquor store.
This was the liquor store, and it was called McManus's Liquor.
Wow.
And a quick story is that my grandmother back in 1977, when they had the blackout, you know.
I remember.
You
Yeah, the blackout, of course.
Well, my grandmother had a liquor store, and when people got their, Social Security check, and all that,
sure,
they would go to my grandmother, and they would cash it with my grandmother's. My grandmother would keep their money in the liquor store.
Wow.
And they were drunks, but they would come in every day, and then my grandmother would give them the bottle and just take a little bit out of that envelope. She kept an envelope for each person.
Yeah.
And so when the blackout came, you remember they looted the whole city. The whole city.
Of course.
But my grandmother's store didn't get looted because all the drunks and winos had their money in there. So they stood guard outside my grandmother's liquor store to make sure nobody broke in.
Oh my gosh.
So they wouldn't take their envelopes.
And it would say it, and nowadays there'd be 50 pictures of it. Now there's no pictures.
There's
Imagine that look, all the drunks standing there with bats, pipes.
Yeah, you're not getting in here. My money's in here.
Yeah.
So
it was
my
like
grandmother,
it was their bank.
So my grandmother was their bank and also their liquor supplier.
Well, because you told me another interesting fact, which that kind of relates to. Remember years ago you said once in the old days when there was some corruption, when they got rid of corruption in 1960s, but nothing could get done.
Right. And
because you need a little bit of quid pro quo to make things happen.
Right, and it was, people stopped showing up to the my uncle was a district leader, and the district leader was responsible for supporting politicians who in turn, when they got elected, would, my uncle would be able to get jobs through the politician.
Yeah.
So people were motivated to volunteer and to help and get involved.
Yeah.
And then my uncle always used to say, said, worst thing that ever happened to the city was civil service.
Civil service.
Civil service. Because then you took the politicians and the people who, the patronage out of the system.
Right.
Where people then, they didn't have to get involved. There was nothing. Now they were accountable to people who had no connections to the neighborhood. And,
right.
And my uncle used to say...
So they're still doing favors, but now it wasn't favors.
To people that there was no connection to the neighborhood. And like my uncle said, if you don't have the power, somebody has it. Don't think it went away.
That's good. If you don't have the power,
somebody has it. It just it left the neighborhood.
And by the way, the other funny thing about this neighborhood is that Broadway is right there.
Right.
So all the Broadway theaters are a block away from here. Every Broadway theater is right there.
And that was like the big joke, for as long as I can remember when I was growing up. We were always going to be revitalized every 5 years. The big joke was like, I remember, in 1970, I still remember, they're doing a new project. This is what's going to turn Hell's Kitchen around.
Right.
77, they're doing a new project. They started building Manhattan Plaza. That's what's going to turn things around. And it never did. And
Manhattan Plaza was great. I remember when everybody's talking about that back in the 80s.
Yeah, no.
But it didn't turn the neighborhood around.
No, it didn't turn the neighborhood around. And it wasn't until, really the advent of technology. When people didn't have to hang out on the corner anymore and sell drugs. You had beepers. Everybody always
you guys used to hang out up that block, right? Is that what you used
Right. There used to be a bar right on this corner called Tyson's. Tyson's was a bloodbath.
Bucket of blood?
There was so many fights in that bar right there. And that was before Mike Tyson, so it was after his name. It was foreshadowing, I think you call it.
Yeah. There was a lot of fights in there.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Why? It was just different groups of people from different...
Well, it was all... Every now and then, different... Yeah, it was a neighborhood bar that every now and then people would wander in from different neighborhoods, and they
right.
And they didn't know what they were walking into. I remember, this is 49th Street.
Yeah.
A friend of mine just passed away, a Spanish guy. When we grew up in the neighborhood, the group before us didn't get along with the Puerto Ricans.
Right.
By the time I came around, we got along great with the Puerto Ricans. We played basketball, we played football, we handball.
Yeah.
And so one time, I'm with my brother Robert, my cousin Timmy, and we're standing right on this corner on 49th Street here. And I'll tell you a story. We got a second here. And all of a sudden, it's me, Timmy, Robert, and a couple of people. And this group of Puerto Ricans are heading north from 48th Street. And we're hanging on the corner, and they're not neighborhood. And all of a sudden, they come into there, and it's about to be a big fight. But they got us outnumbered now. There's probably about 10 of them, and maybe there's 5 of us.
Right.
And things aren't looking good. I always used to say, it looks like rain. It looked like rain. And coming north again from 48th Street, you had these guys, McGilla, you had Bobby Cruz, and all these guys are walking up. And so the Puerto Ricans were about to fight us, see more Puerto Ricans coming, and they said to them, you know, in Spanish, you ready to go? Look, we got these white guys. And Bobby Cruz, I'll never forget, looked at him and said, we're with them. And the light bulb went, now all of a sudden we outnumbered, you know, these guys from uptown, wherever the heck we were for. The light bulb went off where they were, you know, we were neighborhood and they were in trouble.
Right.
Yeah, there was no fight, but they left, you know, it was a lot of screaming. But
Right.
you know, but that's how it was, you know, you know. So anyway, this is Mickey Spillane's, no relation. I'm kidding.
It's his bar.
This is a bar of mine with my partner Richie, Richie Friendly. Let me give him a shout out to him.
Yes.
And
this has been going great for like 10 years, right?
Yeah, this has been 10 years. I named it after my father.
Yeah.
You know.
And your father was a legend.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, he went from being infamous to a legend.
Yes.
It's nice when I walk by in my own bar and nobody even says hi. You can tell I'm not here a lot.
They're like, sir, can you please move?
I really put the silent in silent partner.
They're like, sir, could you please leave?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I own this. Yeah.
Right.
Sure you do.
Sure you do. Yeah, I'm Mickey Spillane. Yeah, like there's really somebody called Mickey Spillane.
They go, that's the name of the bar. It's like saying you're McDonald's.
Right, no, you know, and it's funny, I'll meet people and they'll say, Mickey Spillane, there really is a Mickey Spillane.
Yeah.
But if you know the history of the neighborhood, obviously, you know my dad was such a big figure in the neighborhood.
And let's not forget, Spider used to sit right over here, your buddy Spider.
Spider used to sit right here. Spider was a neighborhood bookmaker for 50 years.
I told you, first time I went to the YMCA, he said the famous words he said to everybody. You want to move around, kid? And I was like, all right. Next thing you know.
He's handing you gloves.
Because he would hit you, even if you cover up, he'd hit you in the kidneys. Because he had long arms. I thought that was why he called Spider. Bang! Ow!
He was a barrel-chested guy. And he would hit you in, like, you know, in the side or you know, in the side. And it would reverberate. You would feel it, you know, 10 seconds later. You're like, oh, man.
Yeah,
what was that?
He was a real,
Yeah.
He would hit a few people, even when he was older.
Oh,
he dropped a few people out here.
Oh, he was good. And he was one of the few bookmakers that were able to, he owned a bar, and he and his brother owned a bar right on the corner here. It was called Sonny's. And
Sonny's was famous. Yeah.
Sonny's was famous because they, and they won't mind me saying this because they were famous for it, is that they sold the best swag in the neighborhood. And people hear swag the term now, and they think, oh, this is what they give away at beauty shows. But swag really means stolen without a gun.
Right.
S-A-G. S-W-A-D, stolen without a gun.
Yeah.
And so, because the neighborhood women... So
it was right here?
Right, this was Sonny's.
I like that Sonny's is notorious bar. Now it's a Kiehl's. It's for skincare.
Right. So it's stolen without a gun because the neighborhood ladies, you know, they didn't mind buying stuff that was stolen, but they didn't want to buy anything that was stolen violently.
Right.
And it's a true story. So if it was swag, it meant, you know, it was stolen, but it was stolen, you know, without a gun.
Off a truck or whatever.
Or they went in and they just boosted it, as we used to say.
Right.
You know, the neighborhood ladies had principles. I mean, what the heck?
It makes sense.
Yeah, they didn't want to be part of it.
Who had that apartment with the balcony right there? I like that fire escape. Somebody had the one fire escape in the whole building.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, you can see why Sonny's was popular too, because it's got that back door. See?
Yeah, and back then you could not get into Sonny's unless they buzzed you in. You got to remember, most of these places you had to, you know, it wasn't like you could just walk in and buy a beer. You know, you walked up, showed your face, and then they buzzed you in.
Now this is how half the buildings used to look in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
in the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, this
was half the neighborhood.
Yeah, this was if
this probably makes you nostalgic.
Yeah. Actually, it would have to be a little more rundown. This is close. This is 1989. Now, the neighborhood was just about to turn. It's the 70s and 80s were a lot worse. And again.
And do you remember what these were?
Well, yeah, this is all the same. The great thing about Hell's Kitchen is that, and this is my Uncle Jim, who's a district leader, had a lot to do with it. He made it a protective neighborhood where you couldn't build, the reason why, if you look around, there's 50-story buildings around, this little neighborhood is because my uncle petitioned the city council to make it a protective neighborhood.
Right.
So you
landmark status.
Well, it didn't become landmark status. It's called protective status.
Okay.
So you can't build over 6 stories. So that's why they never tore down these brownstones and made, so.
And that's why 9th Avenue still has that vibe.
9th Avenue is still the way. I've got pictures from my great uncle when he was running for district leader, and 9th Avenue still looks the same. Although there was an L. People don't remember there was an L on 9th Avenue back in like 1911. So, there was a train that ran down 9th Avenue.
Yeah.
Or drove down 9th Avenue. I don't know if it actually ran. The trains run.
Trains, yeah.
Trains do run. I guess they do.
Yeah, trains runs on time.
Trains run on time, right.
Now we're getting close to the scene of this story.
Yeah.
So let's say before we get there, it's on this block, right?
No, well, it's on this is 9th, we're between 8th and 9th, and this is famous for...
Did you ever hang out at this park?
Well, this park was pretty new. This is a newer park, but the PS 17 has been around for forever, and so when we were kids, we used to hang out in PS 17.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, and that was great because it was nobody could see in there, and it was.
So now.
You could get. And my first girlfriend lived right across the street.
She did.
Yeah.
She lived there.
She did.
Do you hear that?
Yeah, I think that was a guy pretending to be a cat, or a cat pretending to be a guy.
Yeah. Well.
You don't know.
Wow, look at this cool little balcony. Yeah. Imagine this. A fire escape right here.
And this used to be, it's the Actors Temple now, but this was the first Scientology place. When
really? Before it became big?
This was a Scientology place.
Wow.
And I remember we used to walk, because we knew there was something about Scientology. I don't want to, so we used to walk by here and be like,
it's creepy.
Like, creepy.
Yeah. Wow, look at it. It's really religious.
Now it's like an actor's playwright or something like that. Yeah, this is PS 17, and back in the day, they never locked these doors, and you could go up there and you were protected by these walls. And
even at night?
Yeah, at night they would leave it open till 9, 10 o'clock.
Oh my God, it's nuts.
Yeah. No, we're lucky. We were lucky.
Yeah.
PS 17.
So now.
So all these buildings, those are exactly the way they were. And even like I'm saying, not just for my generation, but nothing's changed.
Right. No, it's so interesting to walk with somebody who really understands this whole area. And your girlfriend lived over there?
Yeah, no, my girlfriend well, this is a new building right here. My girlfriend's mom still lives in the right here. This is where she lives.
Oh, right in this one?
Right here, second floor.
Nice.
Yeah, and all the guys used to, their mom was great. She allowed all the neighborhood kids to go out and hang out at the house when I'm talking like.
Sure, one of those, yeah.
Yeah, she was, she was great. Janine Dukowitz.
And was there like almost no cars on the street back then? People don't realize in like the early 80s, it wasn't like
no, they
cars.
were abandoned. Yeah, they were abandoned cars. There'd be flat tires. There'd be broken windows.
Yeah.
Again, they had the side mirrors and all of them. What sticks in my mind, they will all be punched out. Because that's how they would break into the cars back then.
Yeah.
You'd punch out, you had that.
Yeah, they punch out the side window,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
That.
It's crazy.
Yeah. This used to be it's up here. Used to be a little Irish pub.
What was it called?
Well, you used to be able to get meatloafs. What was the name of they had them all around the city.
Corned beef?
Yeah, corned beef. It was like...
Steam table.
Yeah, no.
Steam table. You mean like Clancy's?
Yeah, it was one
Blarney
of those places.
Blarney Stone. Blarney Rock.
Stone. Yeah, it was a Blarney Stone.
Yeah, I used to go to them all over here.
Yeah, you go and you can get meatloaf.
Yeah. I remember, yeah. Oh, I used to love these places.
Yeah, let's see.
People would go at lunch and just pound down watered down beer, but like 5 of them for like 80 cents.
Yeah, exactly.
It was amazing.
You could get a meatloaf and do okay. Now look at it. This is.
I know, it's a madhouse.
I haven't been on this block in probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And holy smokes.
Crazy.
How you doing? Wow, so much for the Blarney Stone. Now it's a Now it's a sophisticated joint, as we used to say.
Yeah.
And there was a bar around the corner. When we would come over here, there were two bars we'd go to. We'd go to the Half Moon Saloon.
Right, I remember the Half Moon.
You remember
the girls wore leotards.
Yeah, the girl leotards.
Yes.
And it was a neighborhood bar, and it was just another insane place.
Yes.
And the other place we would go to was the Savoy, and the Savoy is where the fight happened.
Okay, and the Savoy is where?
The Savoy is between 47th Street between 8th and Broadway, so one more block up.
So it doesn't exist now?
No, now they tore it down and they built a 30-story office building.
So it's just an office building, but it's on this block?
It's on this block, and it's right across the street from the Edison Hotel. And
the Edison Hotel's gone too, right?
No, the Edison's still there.
Oh, it is?
And it's a great... Yeah,
see it?
Yeah, it's underneath the scaffolding over there.
Oh.
But the Edison has been there forever.
Yeah.
And it's.
I know you have some stories from the Edison, but.
Oh my God! Yeah, that's for another.
That's
not
for another
safe
episode.
For work. Yeah, they're not safe for work episode.
But so tell us his story.
Okay, well.
So you're out for a night.
Well, it's my birthday. It's
your birthday.
It's I'm 19 years old. It's a Wednesday, and I'm turning. I just turned 19, so it's my birthday. My brother, who was with me, is still 17 because he was a year and 6 days younger than me. So I'm 19. My brother's 17. I'm with Joey Van Ness, who you know, Bernie Bazer, Tommy Walsh was there, Michael Rosso, and we go to the Savoy. We started off somewhere, obviously. And then we said, let's go to the Savoy. Because
and you had one guy coming in from Jersey, right, just to visit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He was just there to hang out.
Yeah, he was there to hang out. And there was a couple of neighborhood guys there, but there was always neighborhood guys there, but they weren't really with us.
Right.
And
it was a bar for, like, different groups of, like, what, stagehands or...
Stagehands.
It wasn't just neighborhood people. It was also
right.
Broadway stagehand.
Right, you would get tourists in there, and the thing where we would go there is we knew the bartender. The bartender was a neighborhood girl, and she was bartending there. So we would go up and see her, and we'd always get a deal.
Sure.
Sure. She'd buy her tips. You know what I mean?
Right.
With the very little money we had back then.
Sure.
And also it was across the street from the Edison. The Edison always had, you catch a few stewardess would come out over there,
Right.
But it was
the Edison was a hopping hotel,
it was a hopping
moderately
hotel
priced, even back in the 80s.
Exactly.
It was a little bit shady in the lobby in the bar.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember.
Where you would often find
I remember.
the guys in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I know. I remember it.
Yeah, and so we went over there. So we went over there, and all of us, and we're sitting there, and we're just goofing around. And we know the bartender thing, and I go in to take a leak in the bathroom. The bathroom is not, it's 8 by 5 feet or whatever.
Right.
And so I'm taking a leak. All of a sudden the door opens. And so, I'm all facing this way. The door's to my right. And all of a sudden somebody steps in, and then steps really the biggest, ugliest man I've ever seen in my life. He was like, when I looked over, I was really looking to like a little bit above his navel. And I remember looking up, and I saw this. He was just mountain of a man, and and he was really, and like I said, first thing that struck you was this man is huge and he's ugly, and then it dawned on you that you're looking at Andre the Giant.
Right, the great wrestler Andre the Giant.
Yeah, the great wrestler Andre the Giant, who was famous back then, and
Yeah, he's still famous.
Yeah, but that was second that came to mind. The first thing is this guy, and you're in a Hell's Kitchen, and this could be, you don't know what you're walking into. You see this thing, and the first thing you're saying, this guy's big and ugly.
He's gonna kill me.
Yeah, this is
He's here to
fight
kill
or
me.
flight and stuff.
Right.
Anyway, I finish my business. I walk out. And I go out, but I notice that he's with a couple people. Now they're at the end of the bar. When you walk into Savoy, the bar was on the left, and it was a long bar, and there were like tables on the right, and they were just like folding tables. They were, it was a dive. It wasn't a nice bar. And so I come out, and I go over to talk to my brother and Joey Van Ness and Bernie, and we're getting drunk, and he's down there, and they're getting drunk. And all of a sudden, Robert, Bobby, and Joey Van Ness go up to him and just says, hey, Andre, why didn't you ever play football? And Andre looks at him and says, "Why don't you go play pinball?" That's exactly what it said. I'll never forget it. Why don't you go play? And so Robert and Joey come back over, and they were like, "Okay, this is obviously, but stay away from them." And so now I'm sitting on I've got my back to Andre the Giant, and I got my back to the gang he's with.
Right.
And I'm talking to Robert and Joey, and a guy walks by me from his group, and it's a true story, and grabs my ass. And, I'm 19, and back then, nowadays it'd be a compliment. I'd be like, all right. Back then, being a house kitchen guy,
fighting
for my
words,
friends, and a guy grabbed your ass, it was a thing. So he grabs my ass, I'm sitting on the thing, and I turn around and look at him, and I hit him right away.
Right.
He goes over the table and down. He's with he's with Andre, and he's with his other guys who were big, but not as big as Andre. They come right over. Andre grabs me by the neck, first of all, and first he grabs me by my neck. He scratches me, and he pushes me down. I go down. Robert jumps on top of him. Andre. Robert jumps on top of him. He actually, no kidding, he bends Robert over.
It's his brother.
And my brother Robert,
right.
Who's 17 years old at this time. I just turned 19. He's been around, and I see Robert's. It looks like his back is about to snap.
Oh,
and
no.
So I get back up, I grab him from the waist. Joey Van Ness picks up a chair, hits Andre over the back with the chair. The bartender screaming, "No, Andre," because she knew them. She actually knew him because the wrestlers would stop in there.
Right.
She's screaming, "No, Andre." The other guys come over. Now it's just a huge fight. I remember it was Joey Van Ness, Michael Rosso, Bernie Bazer, and there was a door. I remember they coming over. Bernie grabbed Michael Rosso by the face, pushed him like you would see in a wrestling movie, pushed him into Bernie, into Tommy Walsh, and they all went out the door, like it was like dominoes.
You mean Andre just pushed everybody?
Pushed
like a movie.
Yeah, like a movie. He threw Michael into Bernie, into Tommy, and they went out. It was a thing. Now I still got Robert, and I'm thinking he's gonna kill Robert, and he's got Robert by the back. Joey just hit him. Joey's on top of him, and Andre, throws us off, and the other guys. Now you gotta remember, it wasn't just Andre, because there was a couple other people. So now I'm fighting somebody on the side, thinking Andre's still gonna kill my brother, and things just went crazy. We broke the mirrors behind the thing. Andre, it just got really good. We were all beat up pretty good, but Andre was pretty scratched up too. He had to be, because he got hit with a chair. And I got him. I remember hitting, at least throwing one or two punches that got in. You got to remember, you're throwing up, so you don't have the same force as if you were stepping into it. And so anyway, the place is thing, and so we say we got to get out of here now. The mirrors, everything's broken. Andre's there with his guys. We're the young guys. We come out of the bar. All of a sudden, woo, 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 woo. Cops thing. They go, they scream, "Get against the wall." So they put us all against the wall.
Over here?
Right up against the wall, right? And, right by, up against, right next to where the thing, where the bar was. There was a wall. And back then, I think it was probably a theater or something like that.
Right.
But they put us up against the wall. And the cops, somebody must have called the cops and said, you got to get over here fast, And so two young cops, I remember, they were probably 28, 29 years old. And they put us all against the wall. They had their guns out. They put us against the wall. And the one cop says, "I'm going to hold these guys. You go in there to find out what happened." So one guy holds us there with the gun. The one guy goes in there. He's in there for about 5 minutes. And the young cop walks back out of the bar. And I'm looking, I got my hands up on there. And you could see his face was pale. Like, and he walks up to the cop who's got us now. He goes, "You're not going to believe this." He goes, and he steps away. And you can see it, he's telling him, the guy's like, "What? Andre the Giant's in there?" So, and none of us, you got to remember, were over 6 feet tall.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We were young. We were young neighborhood kids. Tallest guy was probably me.
Right.
And, and they were like, got it. Now they're talking to themselves, and they got us up against the wall. And then one cop says, "You know what?" And went back in, and they still got us. And they came back out and they said, "Andre doesn't want to press charges. You guys can go." And I remember thinking, Andre doesn't want to press charges? Did you see the size of this guy? This guy. So anyway, we get out of there. And most people at that point would have said, okay, that's a night, I'm going home. We went to another bar. And I got to tell you, there was a time in my life when my life was so crazy. Like, that was news for about a week. And then it was like on to the next story. But anyway, that's still, I remember the next morning, I was up, at that point we were living in 888 8th Avenue.
Right.
And my mom wakes me up, it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm bruised, I've got black and blues all over me. My poor brother was really, and my mom wakes me up and she says, your Uncle Charlie, because my dad was dead at this point, but your Uncle Charlie, who was my father's twin, and whenever I got a call from Uncle Charlie, it was not good news. Your Uncle Charlie wants to talk to you. Now I'm hungover. And I'm like, okay, let me go up. And I take the chair. So I'm like, hello, hello. And all I hear on the other end of the thing is my Uncle Charlie saying, Andre the Giant? Andre the Giant? Like, what is wrong with you? like, you go up at night and next thing I'm hearing stories that you're fighting Andre the Giant?
That's hilarious.
Oh, it was great. And I was like, oh, Uncle Charlie, I don't know what I said. I knew I was hungover and I just wanted to go back. But it was
beautiful.
Yeah, it was it was one of those things where, we're lucky, obviously we're lucky that one of us really didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
But to be honest, he was trying to hurt us and we were trying to hurt him. So things could have gotten.
And there's always the instigator probably get away with nothing.
Well, no, and the guy who
started.
Well, it turns out, and this is funny, I didn't know who the guy was who grabbed my butt. It was his manager. And then his manager, if you look, it became pretty well known himself.
Who was it, Bobby the Brain Hint?
I don't know who he is, but but.
I wonder who it was.
His manager, whoever his manager was. That's what they told me.
We gotta Google him. We're gonna have to put his picture up at the end of this.
Yeah. Well, it turns out if it's not, now I'm going back. It turns out if it wasn't him, I don't
Something
want
we get sued by Andre.
Yeah, from what I remember, from what I was told, it was his manager.
He's in a retirement home. I didn't grab his ass.
Listen, I knew I should have beat him up harder. So anyway, that
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I went to college years later after I sobered up, and I knew people went to the school before I did.
Right.
And I was talking to a teacher of mine, and I told him very funny. He goes, "Wait a second, are you the guy who had a fight with Andre the Giant?"
Oh my God.
It was like it was legendary. It was legendary. So it was fun. And the good news is none of us really got hurt, and it was a great story.
Including Andre.
Yeah, from what we know. This is the area where they put us down. This is probably exactly where they put us against. I said it was
against the wall here?
Yeah, we were against the wall right here. We were all lined up.
Oh, so this wasn't here. That was it, huh?
This is it, because we made it this far when they pulled us over. And the Edison was right here.
The Savoy was here.
Yeah, so the Savoy was right here.
Building.
Yeah, this building. Yep, in fact, right here where this driveway is where the Savoy was.
This was the Savoy.
And right next to it was the triple X-rated theater.
This was the X-rated theater was here.
The X-rated theater. And this was the
Savoy.
The Savoy.
Wow. The scene of the crime.
Yeah, and so this is, like I said, we made it as far as the theater.
It's amazing.
And then they put us against the wall. And the fight did spill out into the into the street, but Andre didn't come out, but the people he was with did.
And they were big too. Yeah.
They were big too. And so we do it, and then we were like, okay, you always in the back of your head when you have a street fight, your time is clicking. You know when it's time to go. So the time was up, and we were trying to get away.
Right. And then
we
the
made
cops.
it. Yeah, and the cops did come, and we made it. We made it. Not halfway down the block, but
legendary.
Yeah.
And then right back to the neighborhood. What's the other? Do you remember the other bar you went to after that?
You know what? I'm thinking we probably went to Amy's Pub up on 56th Street, because that was the neighborhood bar where we would have gone to on a Wednesday night too.
It's great.